My music isn't just music, it's medicine. Kanye West and Parback the Rapper.
That's going okay.
People always say you can't please everybody. I think that's a cop-out. Why not attempt it? Because think of all the people you'll please if you try. Kanye West.
Good morning. My name is Justin Parsons, and I'm a SoundCloud rapper from Avon, Connecticut. At one point, I was known around campus for my excessive potty mouth, my social ineptitude, and my thickness. When I first arrived on the Hill 3 years and 70 pounds ago, I was a different person physically, and I also had an attitude that matched my size and shape, which at the time was comparable to a pear. When I was touring as an 8th grader, I didn't even own pants that fit me, so I had to wear my mother's velvet leggings. Painful and humiliating experience. September 8th, 2016 was my first day of class. At 9 a.m., I walked into English class, and by the end of that period, I managed to not only make no friends, but I also confessed my distrust to the girl next to me. I blatantly splurted out to her, "I don't trust you," after she told me her name. I had no reason to throw such accusations, but I did so because frankly, I felt like it, and they were the first words that came into my mind. Even as I was retelling that story for this chapel talk, I couldn't come up with a reason for my words. Perhaps it was just me trying to soak up attention, or perhaps I was acting out because I was nervous. It wasn't my best move, but it was nowhere near my worst. December 7th, 2016 was my worst move. After a science class with Mr. Zallinger, I stole an inflated trash bag from his room and journeyed to the day student lounge to test out the hypothesis. The dependent variable, my body. Independent variable, a thin trash bag. An obvious uneven matchup. I believed if I landed on the bag in the right way, it would in fact break my fall. Unfortunately, that did not happen, as the only thing I broke was my face. I had to go to the health center, where Dr. Smith sewed 3 stitches on my chin. Almost everyone knew me after the video and corresponding memes spread across the school. As was true for me then, I ate up the attention. At the time, I was proud of my stupidity. Today, if I could, I would travel back in time to that day, slap that bag out of my hand, and talk my younger self out of that stuff. Anyways, months passed and I continued trying to grasp for the spotlight. In my first year at Westminster, I racked up 5 disciplinary pits and several Sunday halls, a record which I hope nobody tries to beat. As my advisor told me, "You're a day student, you're not supposed to get in trouble like that." But sometimes it do be like that. These stories describe where I was in my maturity as a third former. Although I got placed on disciplinary warning within the first months of 4th form year for a few outlandish comments, I did better at keeping it together. I got in trouble a few more times throughout that year, most notably my Super Bowl incident in English, which included words I'm certainly not allowed to repeat in a chapel, and that one time I called someone a chunky jar of salsa. My behavior was improving, but not nearly fast enough. What I needed was an awakening moment, which I received several months later. This past summer, I was home alone when I got a sudden text message from my mother. "Dad's in the hospital." The night before, my dad had not been feeling well, and while I was asleep, an ambulance picked him up. My mom went with him to the hospital, so when I woke up, I thought they were both at work. Later that day, I got a phone call from my mom explaining the situation. She told me he was ill, but the doctors assured her everything was fine, so I didn't worry. However, a week later, I remember picking up my dad from the hospital after his stay. I was stunned seeing him. He was a shell of his former self, a ghost possessing a body that was barely managing to stay upright in his wheelchair. On the way back home, he decided to stop by his office. I came up with him to make sure he didn't tumble down a flight of stairs and trip over himself. When I finally guided him to his desk, while logging onto his computer, he briefly paused and told me that if anything happened to him, I'd be in charge of the house and business. As he was trying to read his monitor, he was struggling to see, so I began helping him enter passcodes and type values. Slowly, he started telling me what to do. It was weird seeing my dad, still in his hospital sweats, trying to tell me in a frail voice how to run a business, instead of using his normal assertive tone. Every minute he talked with me, my heart sank deeper. I almost crashed the car several times on the way home as tears formed in my eyes, but I didn't wipe them off because I wanted to show I was strong. The scare of losing my dad was the biggest awakening moment of my life. Although I used to consider my bar mitzvah as the day I grew up, it paled in comparison to the small taste of true adulthood I experienced that day driving home from the hospital. I realized I needed to stop acting like a little kid. It was time to grow up. My dad fortunately recovered, but I'm a junior now. Soon I'll be living life independently, and I've realized how important it is to make the most of the opportunities I'm blessed with. Deep down, I'll always be that person joking around, but I've begun to understand that there is a time and place for everything. There are moments where it's better to keep your mouth shut, and there are other times when it's better to talk. Instead of trying to get attention through dim-witted acts and snarky comments, I instead have been trying to get the spotlight by exceeding expectations and getting involved in school. It feels much better talking to your advisor about being the new head of PR for water polo, instead of having to explain how you got kicked out of quad squad practice again, as a manager. Another change that happened over the summer was that I began running a 5K every day. Now I'm wearing pants I haven't fit in since 6th grade. I've learned something important from running, that trying something new is hard. But every day, all you can do is try your best until it gets easier. I will always hate running, but I woke up each day last summer knowing that I'd be happier after shedding the weight that has been anchoring me since childhood. And it did. I don't feel self-conscious to be in my skin anymore. I remember going to the beach and swimming in my shirt, but now I look back and laugh at myself. I have one more memory from my last day of freshman year. In history class, we took an informal vote, and I was elected by my peers most likely to get kicked out. But I'm not planning to let that happen. I have 2 years left here at Westminster, and I'm looking forward to graduating with the rest of my class in 2020. I'd quickly like to thank Mr. Kendall and Mr. Gritzmacher and the rest of the water polo team. We may have just won our first game 2 days ago, but y'all taught me that it's not always the end result that matters. And if you haven't seen us swimming with buckets behind us strapped to our hips, it's a true show of grit and grace. I'd also like to thank Carter Henshaw and Aiden Wood for letting me know when I'm going off the rails. And I'd especially like to thank my parents and Mr. Decanter for setting high expectations and not giving up on me. It was fun being a clown, but I'm done with that for the most part. To improve is easy, it's just hard to start. I got too caught up thinking about the challenges I would face in order to improve, but once I started focusing on how to get past those challenges, it became easier to be better. Thank you.